Good evening and welcome to Steel Sharpens Steel. Thank you for joining us for our bar coverage of the vice presidential debate. With me, as always, is Chuck Hobbs.
Good evening.
And joining us again are two ladies of the panel, Joy Stevens.
Hello, everyone.
And Sharon Letman Hicks.
Good evening.
So tonight we had a plexiglass shield that did not protect us from Pence over-talking and overtaking a lot of time and not answering a whole lot of questions. So in our first segment, I want to go around the panel and get some grades for Mike Pence. First, on the merits of questions that he actually answered. Chuck, what grade do you give Mike Pence on the questions that he actually answered as posed by the moderator?
A professor of mine, an English professor of mine at FAMU High used to say sometimes that the grades were so bad that she couldn't even give an F, she would give somebody a Q. So on the answer of whether he answered the questions on point, he gets a Q in honor of Dr. Barnes, because there were too many instances where not only did he not answer the question, but somewhere along the way, he exercised his privilege to start posing questions. And I was like, where do they do that? So yeah, he gets a Q, 0, F, Z, whatever you want to call it.
All right, Sharon, we're going to you next. What do you give Pence on the questions of the moderator that he actually answered?
D- for his boy, Donnie 45.
How about you, Joy?
You know, I'm going to give him a C, and I know that may be unpopular, but looking at it as and through the lens of someone who is looking for confirmation of what they believe or having questions answered, I think he did a good job of sticking to the talking points that had been prescribed for him. And I think he did a good job of deflecting by answering something that sounded like maybe it could have been related to the question if you really wanted it to be. So I think people said Pence couldn't dance, but I saw him dance relatively well tonight. So I'm going to give him a C for confusion.
All right. I'm going to go with a D- as well on the merits of answering the question. And to borrow a phrase from the old McNeil-Lehrer report, the answer is D-. This time, I want to address the point that Joy was speaking to. How well do you think he executed what was his obvious mission, which was to say whatever he wanted to say, regardless of what the question was that was being asked? Chuck, to you?
You know, one of the things, this debate for a second week in a row has just frustrated me, Tom. I think that it's because I have dealt with the art of debate both in school during the school days, as well as obviously as a trial lawyer. I just am not used to this type of format whereby, the format isn't the problem. It's the implementation of the format, so to speak. This is the second week in a row that we have had two feckless moderators. Chris Wallace last week, Susan Page today. On one hand, I don't want to necessarily cast aspersions at the moderators because you can say, well, Donald Trump was infantile in many instances last week. He would not cooperate. And then by extension, there were times when Joe Biden was infantile also in terms of being snarky, so to speak. Those are things that you wouldn't see in a courthouse because, again, the minute you start to be argumentative or nasty or throwing shade, so to speak, we might like that in the public square. But the minute you do that, you can find yourself in contempt of court. So it's been very frustrating for me to see where both the president and the vice president have gone to the strategy of over talking their opponents, not allowing words to get out. I thought that Senator Kamala Harris handled it better than Joe Biden did last week. And there were a number of times where I just kept looking at her face, her expressions, and sometimes just direct. It's my turn to talk. You're going to be quiet. I mean, she took control in as much as she could, but it was frustrating to me just to watch and see that you could not get Pence to, he's a moving target. I mean, at the end of the day, I can't think of many questions that he answered nail hitting head. It was just a lot of platitudes, a lot of God bless America. I love America. This is the greatest country on earth. They don't love America. That's not the question. And so with that, I was frustrated the whole evening.
All right. So you gave him a Q. On the merits. Are you giving him an O for obfuscation, or are you giving him another Q for his delivery of talking points?
Being the word nerd that you are, I like O for obfuscation. So let's go with that right now, which ostensibly is a Q.
Okay. So
right.
Sharon, how about you on delivery of talking points?
I really felt, oh, thank you, Broderick. I really felt disgusted. I never liked Pence. Tonight, I like him less because it wasn't just talking points. It was just flat out lies. And there's just something about him that when they first got elected that depicted, well, at least there's a grown up in the room. At least there's somebody with some integrity. The way he carries his faith, the way he perpetuates this stature, it's just another Fox talking head. I mean, he's just disgusting. And the way that they would lie non-consequentially, I really wish that they would have challenged his lies more. You know, he made no bones about, you know, you can't retell the facts. And I don't, well, we're getting on Kamala, so I'll wait for us to get to her. But I just feel like he's just an extension of Donnie. He's just, you know, walks slower and talks slower. But he's just a fraud. He gives me nothing. Everything he claims to represent for him to serve in the capacity that he does with 45, it's the most loathing type of Christian.
Mm.
So Joy, last time you answered more on the messaging, on the merits of the questions that he answered. Are you holding to the C or do you have a different grade?
So on actually answering the questions, and we're talking about scoring points, yes?
Yes. Well, answering the questions as asked, not scoring political points on what he wanted to say, on the questions that he answered as asked. How would you score him?
I'm going to give him an incomplete.
Okay.
Because I don't think he answered any question that was asked. I think, again, as I said, he did a good job of, look over there. Here's what we said before. Don't forget about Hillary. He might as well have brought up Benghazi at that point, which we are not talking about anymore. That is over. So I'm going to give him an incomplete because I'm waiting on him to turn in his homework.
Yeah, I think that he had moments where he used that soft, soothing radio voice that he used as a talk radio show host. It's interesting. We have the vice president as a reality TV show star and Mike Pence as ostensibly a much smaller radio host, let's say minor planet rather than a star. And he managed to parlay that into the Indiana governorship. But it does not come off as genuine or effective to me when you never actually answer the question. And he had the temerity to accuse Senator Harris of dodging a question when he refused to answer whether or not he would push for the complete ban of abortions in his own state. He made a point of saying he's right to life, he's pro-life, all these sorts of things, but he didn't answer the question. And I think to Senator Harris's respect, she also did not take the bait because that is an impossible question to answer without making some potential trouble for yourselves. So talking about Senator Harris, let's do the same thing, the same question, going around the room. We're going to start with you, Chuck. On the merits of questions asked, how did Prosecutor Harris do in today's debate?
I thought that she did about a B. I would not give her an A because there were certain times I saw a couple of people make this analogy on my Facebook timeline this evening that there were some times that she had some kill shots that we used to call it in football. And that's sometimes when a guy is stumbling and you're on defense and you just have an opportunity to rock their world, so to speak, with a hit. There were opportunities there on some of the things when Michael Pence was in platitude mode or when Michael Pence was in straight up, I'm not answering your question mode for her to follow up with kill shots. And there were times that she was hesitant. Now, I understand that part of the hesitance might be there's a handicap that she had, so to speak, that I kept reading about from a lot of my learned friends who are women on social media and traditional media the last few days, which is she did not want to come off as the angry Black woman. I thought she did an excellent job on that. But frankly, Tom, it frustrates me that she even has to consider that. I mean, last week, there are people walking around, you know, that Mango Mussolini, Donald Trump was jumping around and yelling and fussing, and they thought that was a great example of debate strategy. And here it is, a sister of her accomplishment levels has to even maybe mute herself somewhat so that she doesn't get that appellation of she's the angry black woman. So with that, she missed a few kill shots, I thought, but overall, I thought that she did an outstanding job in staying on point. She did a great job of taking up for herself in regards to not allowing herself to be bullied by Pence and or Susan Page, because there were times where Page would sit there quiet when Mike Pence is just rambling on and on and on and on. And then she wants to hush Kamala. And so I thought Senator Harris did a really good job with that. Yeah.
So Sharon, you let out a hoop. I'm going to go to you on the grades. What would you say in terms of her answering the questions offered?
First of all, can we all give Kamala Harris a toast? Because sister girl, and don't you turn it to the head, Chuck. But
Iron
Joy, what's going on, Joy? What's going on?
Grab the glass, Joe. Oh, she got a glass.
That looks like an MD 40 bottle. Okay, don't ask me how I know. Let's be clear. Black woman tonight, that Black woman tonight, and all Black women across the country and world should be quite proud. She held her own. I don't have any stereotypes of Black girl, Black angry Black woman. She was presidential. She was a prosecutor, and she was on equal footing. He even at times attempted to pander on record, but Susan Page just could not handle Pence. Right. And she tried to overcompensate on Kamala and then caught herself a few times. But, you know, Kamala, I've seen Kamala frazzled before. I've seen her stutter or start giggling defensively. She didn't do that tonight. That's why I have to give her a B+. I really felt like there were some times that she should have just stuck him. She took the high road because I guess, you know I couldn't do it because I would have just went for the throat right here. See that? Yeah, punched right there in the throat. And in the throat. But she missed some good zingers she could have given him. She missed a few. But overall, she held tight by not giving them a pass early on about the coronavirus. I'd like to see it come in more towards the end. Like, he kept deflecting. If he didn't want to answer something, he went back to a question he wanted to answer. He was stellar at that. But she was fantastic. Mark, I totally agree. She brought Black woman mojo tonight. It's one of those moments where you're just like, yeah, sis, I could see you. I could see you in the vice presidential mansion. I could see you holding it down with Joe. I think that she showed a lot of deference and respect for him being at the top of the ticket, but she wasn't overly deferential. I felt like she represented the ticket well. I felt she was an effective cheerleader, but she didn't even overcompensate as a cheerleader. She just held her own. And what she did do was hold them accountable for their piss poor record. She didn't let them get away with tomfoolery as they attempted to do.
Hey.
Look, we already gave up Uncle Tom, Tia Tomas. I can't give up tomfoolery. You just got too many things. Your parents should have worked that out, Mr. the Fourth. And y'all trying to go for Tom the 10th. I get it. But some of these things we ain't going to erase just for you, damn it. But Tia Tomas will stick because I love you, Tia Tomas. Did you just turn that to the head, Joy? Damn.
No, that was an absolute illusion.
Crew. I'm supposed to be the crook one. Y'all, I guess y'all just like, this bitch ain't gonna get all this airway. We about to be fucked up and we about to go in. I get it.
So what's your grade? Give me a letter grade, Sharon. For
I said B+.
Okay. Joy, turning to you.
I got a lot to say and I want my time. I'm giving her a B+ as well. I think she did a really good job of trying to ride that line between strong, resilient, take no prisoners, and angry Black woman. There are a couple of things she said, and I felt it in my chest because I have said that before. I have been in a meeting in corporate America surrounded by vice presidents, surrounded by directors, and had to say, I'm speaking. Please don't interrupt me. I'm speaking. I've been that woman. And so I was feeling her on that. And I understand how you want to tell them, you don't shut your mouth and let me do what I got to do, I'm going to knock you in your face. But you say with a smile, I'm speaking. So I thought she did a really good job with that. I
Y'all got to teach me that one.
Excuse me, I'm speaking. Yes. My turn. Excuse me, I've got the floor. Thank you. When you want to say, if you don't shut your so yes, I understood her frustration and I appreciated the class with which she maintained her dignity and also tried to reclaim her time. I thought she did a good job of reminding the moderator, excuse me, he interrupted me for 45 seconds. I would like my 45 seconds back, which is absolutely within the rules of the debate. And so she did a good job of playing their game and winning it. And so I want to give her an A. I really do, but I give her a B+ because there were just some things where I was like, "Oh, she's about to get it." Oh, she didn't say what I wanted her to say. And so there were a few moments like that, but I think overall she did a really good job, not only of stating the points of her platform, getting in some good points with Pence, but also in reminding people, I am the only one on this stage. Done any of the things that I refuse to be lectured about procedure. I refuse to be lectured. I love that with my entire being. Okay.
So I was going to give her a B+, but I'm going to round her up to an A-. And this is why. She had this way of pulling out that smile. And I'm not going to say this as a man who was admiring the feminine pulchritude of a beautiful woman. But just as they were saying that Sarah Palin had starburst shooting out of her eyes when she was in the debate with Joe Biden, that's the sense I was getting from Kamala Harris. When she needed to be direct, she could speak directly to the camera. She kind of reset herself in her seat a couple of times. But when Biden was doing something completely foolish, she would just do. And you could see it was diminishing him in a way that I found was very effective. And I do agree that she did a very good job of talking about, I must be allowed to answer. You let him go on. Right. So I need that equal time. I did think she missed a couple of opportunities. There was an article I read about a professor at Morgan State University who was saying that the way she could get him is if she were to say, you were the czar of COVID and your boss caught the disease. That's a powerful statement. And she kind of skirted around it in like the second or third kind of volley back and forth of what they were talking about. But she didn't nail him down on that core point. You were the guy in charge. And your guy, who happens to be the president of the United States, who was disavowing everything that the experts were saying in terms of how you need to treat this disease with respect, you allowed him to get the disease. And now 31 people in his circle also have the disease, including your White House press secretary, your former flack, all these campaign staffers, everybody else. The Joint Chiefs of Staff have to quarantine themselves because so many have been recused from, or have been exposed rather, to the virus. So I'm going to give her an A- on that. And I'm going to kick off this next round by saying I'm going to give her a B+ on getting out her talking points. I do think she did a good job of deflecting in a way that was half again cleverer than Pence. Because, for instance, on the China answer, Pence just kind of completely avoided it. She got her talking points out, but then she brought it back to our standing in the world as it relates to China, how China is perceived as being more of a leader than we are, which was kind of at the crux of what the moderator was asking. She was saying, how do you view our relationship with China? And I thought she found a clever way to appear to be answering it a lot more directly than Pence, who basically just turned it into an opportunity to just say stuff all over again. Joy, we're going to go to you first this time. Overall, in terms of presentation and getting the messaging out, being a surrogate for Joe, all the things that you expect from a vice president, how did you feel Senator Harris did tonight?
I think overall, just on, again, on presentation, on composure, on approaching things from a humanistic and relatable standpoint. I thought she did a really good job of addressing the camera, breaking things down to something that the average person could relate to and understand, defending her record, reminding people who they came to see. I loved all of it. I'll give her an overall, even though individually I haven't rated it as high, overall I would give her an A. And I do want to say, the one thing that I wish she would have done when you mentioned about him being the czar of COVID, she missed her M'Baku moment. She could have been like, you can't even keep your own president safe. I would have loved that.
I don't think she could have gotten away with colonizer tonight.
She would have pulled out her Jamaican.
Yeah. So, Sharon, how do you feel? What's your overall grade for her in terms of messaging as opposed to answering questions posed?
Messaging, I would give her an A. Quite frankly, I felt like she was the one that got all of their issues out when she was able to rattle off their positions. I thought was very effective. I thought that was one of the few times that I wasn't looking at looking at the dynamics of a debate being petty, but being substantive. So when she really laid out their platform and defended him, especially when he started going in on climate change, and when she was trying to go in on fracking and all those other issues, she came back towards the end and just laid out their positions. I thought that was really strong. One quick moment of personal privileges. Everybody watching, please put the way you scored them in your comments section. We love it. We're reading them. We see you, and we want to hear from you. So grade both Pence and Sister Kamala, and let us know what you think as well. You're on mute, Tom.
Sure am. Chuck, we're going to you. This is the last comment on this segment of the
we missed
chat.
whatever you were saying.
Yes, all I was saying is that how do you score Senator Harris in terms of messaging and surrogacy for the Biden campaign?
I thought that she stayed on target very well. I really enjoyed the piece where she kept hitting home. You know, we have seen this trite question over and over and over from conservatives, which is Joe Biden has been in Congress for 47 years. What has he done? Well, if he hasn't done anything else, he was responsible, along with Barack Obama, for preventing us from going into a second Great Depression back in 2009 through 2010 and 11. And I really liked how Senator Harris was able to bring that record back out and also chastise Mike Pence for the fact that he did not vote for those bailouts and for the reforms back in 2009 when he was Congressman Pence. And on top of that, that he and his current president are now trying to take credit for many of the economic gains that we saw during those 8 years of the Obama-Biden administration by pretending as if they are the ones who have created this prosperity, and also by being able to throw a little shade by reminding him that all of that prosperity has now gone down the tank because of their inability to get their hands around this COVID-19 this year. And accordingly, we have seen so many people lose jobs and benefits in the process.
So I want to take a moment to talk about some of Pence's prevarications. What do you think was the most egregious recasting of history? There were a number of them: the slow recovery of the Obama administration, the jobs that they quote unquote created as they came into the administration, the efficacy of the strike against Soleimani, and the numbers of American citizens that were killed, whereas Obama and Biden were directly responsible for killing Osama bin Laden, who was documented as killing 3,000 plus Americans on 9/11. Sharon, I want to start off with you. What was the thing that set your teeth on edge that Biden said tonight?
I don't let anything set these teeth on edge, boo. But anywho, let me be clear. It was his rewriting of the coronavirus. I mean, I lost it when he was lauding their record, when he was lauding how it started. And it just annoys me when everyone uses Fauci saying, don't wear mask back in March. mofos, it's October. Your list of infringements on the readiness and the execution on the welfare of American people is hideous. And the fact that no one ever checks them on the record, of which I'm going to do, the only reason they ever told anyone not to wear masks initially is they feared Americans running out and taking up all the N95s and that healthcare workers would not have them. And then when they realized that people were starting to manufacture and stock up, and now it's become the new industry production next to ventilators, then they turned it around in less than a few weeks to say, no, everybody go and get masks. So the fact that, again, I appreciated Kamala setting the record straight when she could. I felt, if anything, that more of that needed to happen. I realized that wasn't the moderator's role, but they allowed him to get away with too much. And when he started just ingratiating all that they've done, and when the one real time that he was condescending is when he tried to come at Kamala like, we care about the American people. We are the protectors. We feel the deaths. We have done so much. I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? And that was like, my head was going, I mean, there was just nothing. That was the moment that I was like, okay, chick, you need to take a couple laps around the crib before you break up some stuff up in here, because that and the fact that at that point that should have been like, she should have just went a little black woman on that one. I just felt like they allowed him, because when he figured out he could filibuster effectively, he was a professional debater versus Donnie looked like an idiot. Pence did it with the craft of debate, and that's hard. That's why, he got a little bit of a pass, and she had to protect herself. She must have watched that Michelle Obama special, First Lady special, when they turned off the volume on Michelle and just showed what she was like, and when she realized what she had to do to pull up, I'm certain, because Kamala she was a prosecutor, and she wasn't stereotypical as to how they like to paint us. But yet she wasn't like soft. I mean, she held her own. I felt like it was equal footing, and that meant everything to me. That meant everything to me.
So, Joy, what about you in terms of what was said tonight by Pence? Because like his boss, there wasn't much truth to anything that he said. What was something that particularly rankled you about Pence's many responses during the evening? Oh, the teeth suck. Okay, go on ahead. Get it right.
That lipstick is pretty, girl.
Thank you. I was particularly offended in my heart when he dared to say that the Biden-Harris ticket wasn't respecting the sacrifice of the American people throughout this pandemic, because those people did not have to be sacrificed in the first place. And so to imply, oh, you're not honoring their death, they ain't had to die. And that's what bothered me the most. That's what made me want to come through the screen and do something to them. You see those people that come off stage and just come out of nowhere and start choking somebody? That would have been me if I was there. I would have if I could Zoom bomb him, I would have. That was so crazy to me. First of all, you let 211,000 people die. They're talking about the fact that these deaths have been senseless. And then you say, how dare you dishonor their sacrifice? You shouldn't sacrifice the American people. And we've had plenty of examples. New Zealand has eradicated this. Even China, where the virus presumably started, has had not even a fraction of the deaths that we've had. And we have mishandled this. And so the American people should not have been guinea pigs for political exchange and showboating. And that really, I cannot emphasize enough how disrespectful ultimately that was, to try to play that game at that moment when you have people who are watching this debate who have lost family members. That killed it for me right there.
All right, before I throw to you, Chuck, I'm going to say that the thing that really got to me out of the litany of lies is when he brought up the issue of systemic racism. and tried to poo-poo the notion that there is inequity both in the system and in justice in general in the country. The fact that he tried to sit there and claim that that's just not something that is in this country is disgusting to me. It's the most disgusting lie that I felt was said of the evening. There were lots of things about the COVID response that were egregious, but the notion that this white man talking literally to the former chief law enforcement officer of the second largest system of justice in the country had the nerve to talk about the lack of systemic racism was something that really got to me, because in general, I thought he was trying to kind of soft pedal, and he was using some of the old talking points that the administration has always trotted out. And he was trying to play it kind of cool and trying to play it kind of calm. That's when I just could not. I thought it was a bridge too far for me. So, Chuck, I'm going to turn it to you. What for you was the low point of the many low points of Pence's performance this evening?
Well, to tell you the truth, one of the things that you just said that I can add to is that I thought that Kamala Harris handled that well when she read down her resume without being condescending, but just reminding that she was eminently more qualified to speak on the subject of justice, specifically Breonna Taylor and race-based justice in America, than Mike Pence. I think that what you saw from Mike Pence was him being true to what many of his ilk stick to, which is they really just don't care. For those of us who are into Lovecraft country, in fact, we saw this past weekend where Christina was going through the motions with Ruby and the issue with Emmett Till's killing, and how she straight up looked and said, I don't care. And that is emblematic of what we see from many, not all, but many of our conservative white brothers and sisters, that it just does not hit them in the same way that it hits us. So I thought that was great. And I thought it was great for Kamala, and I thought it was poor for Mike Pence. But personally, the comments about how well they did with the coronavirus, I think that, yes, I found that problematic. It's a lie, clearly. The whole closing China down, we've talked about myriad times on this show in particular, that it doesn't matter if you close down China. People are still coming in from Europe and other points of origin where the disease had already spread.
And China, because right. American residents and their families from China could still come from China. He did not completely close the border to China at all, ever.
Absolutely. And then when you couple that with the fact that when you move forward and recognize that, and Kamala Harris called him out on this, the fact that this administration still is being cavalier about the entire mask wearing and the entire social distance piece. Tom, you said 31 people in the White House. I checked earlier this evening. It's actually 34 and counting. And so when you realize that there are people who just come to work to serve as, domestic workers and what have you, that are now exposed to a president who had his Covita moment, not Evita, but Covita, where he's taking the balcony and he's pulling off his mask, and you see the white and the orange looking like the Oompa Loompa, so to speak, when he pulled that mask off. We're sitting here and we're realizing that this dude does not care if other people get sick or die. And as someone who has had friends and family members who have passed from COVID-19 this year, I find that the most troubling of the things that I heard from Mike Pence today.
Now, I'm going to take a brief moment since you brought up Lovecraft Country, because I do want to say one of the masterful pieces about that particular program and how it handles the history of anti-Black violence in this country. They made a very strong choice this week dealing with the Emmett Till murder of not showing Emmett Till. They didn't show Emmett Till in the casket. They didn't show any indication of the horrors that were visited onto Emmett Till. But when Christina made the choice to have that violence placed on her own body, even knowing that she was invulnerable, they managed to show the savagery of what happened to him, but not put it on a Black body. And that's just one of the reasons that I find that show to be particularly brilliant in how it handles the history, because it was a very tough thing to deal with. We've been waiting for the Bobo incident since the character was first revealed on the show, and it finally came to a head in last week's episode. So again, kudos to Lovecraft Country. But back to the debate. Let's talk about the moderator just for a second, because there were some moments early on when I thought she was going to handle things a bit better than Chris Wallace. When he first started making his first line stepping moment, I thought she was going to handle it. But then things disintegrated. And as many of you have mentioned, when he realized he could do it, he never gave up on it and kept trying to go further and further and further. So let's talk about what we think this holds for the debates going forward. Famously, the committee said that they were considering some options of having a mic kill switch. Obviously, the Trump-Pence campaign kind of revolted against that. But it seems tonight that Pence didn't do his side any favors because he pushed the envelope yet again. Joy, what do you think we are looking forward to in the upcoming debates as far as the manipulation of mics on candidates, especially the overspeaker in chief, Donald Trump?
You know, I think, first of all, I think the next debate should be over Zoom, WebEx, Skype, whatever you want to do, it should be virtual so that you just take them off camera when it's no longer their time to speak. You mute their mic and there's no discussion. They're on screen and then they're not. And I think that could work really well, especially because our president needs to recover. I think he needs to stay at home and, pay attention to his own health and debate from the House. And then it will allow everybody else to not pick up his nasty germs on top of that. But I do think that the next couple of debates need to be moderated from somewhere where we can control, we being the people who are listening, are not subjected to a fecal festival, as last one was.
Oh, right, for fecal festival. Chuck, you were in the middle of a chuckle on that one. What do you think we are looking forward to? Do you think that Trump is going to be mollified by his COVID diagnosis and the blowback he got from the first debate, or do you think it's going to be debate 1.0 as 1.5?
It's interesting. I think that his base instinct is to be Trump. All right. And I think that's what his supporters love so much. They say Trump's going to be Trump. He's not a politician. He's unconventional and what have you. But I watched him several times over the last few days. And while there has been a raging debate on social media about whether he actually has coronavirus or not, I actually think that he does have the disease. And I think that it's costing him physically more than the projections have been from Mark Meadows and those who are his handlers, including his doctors. One of the things that people who have had this disease have consistently stated is that it causes issues with the breathing. And he looks out of breath. I mean, he's a big guy, but I have never seen him almost sounding like Darth Vader, so to speak, without the menace, so to speak, but because he's not real menace. I mean, he talks tough, but he's not able to force choke anyone like Darth Vader. But the fact is he can't breathe. And with that, I am not sure that he can stay on a stage for 90 minutes and continue to do again what he did last week. That's number one. Number two, though, is I really don't think that the Biden campaign should accede to any "we need to be in person" type demands from this person anymore, because they are reckless. These folks have that Rona. These folks don't care if they spread it to other people. I saw a TikTok earlier today, Tom. Actually, I think you might have sent it to us. No, our frat brother Harry Brown sent it to us, where Kellyanne Conway's daughter is in the bed with her mother, Kellyanne Conway. Neither has on any protective devices. They're just sitting there spreading germs. If the daughter doesn't have it, she damn sure is going to have it soon enough, because her mom's sitting there yelling and fussing and cursing at her. So people, if y'all haven't seen that, go check the TikTok out on Kellyanne Conway and her daughter. It's rough. And so with that in mind, I wouldn't be within 15 feet of Donald Trump in an arena. And what Joe Biden could do is say, for his own health at 77, almost 78 years old, that he is not going to be in person with him, no way, shape, or form. Either it's going to be on Zoom or StreamYard, like how we do Steel Sharpens Steel, or it's a no-go, because it really isn't going to move the needle much anyway.
Let's talk about Trump and COVID for a moment, since COVID was a center point of the debates. I, as you and as everybody, watched him climb those steps And when he got to the top of the steps and he was waving, it was this.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not something that you usually see. And I found his comments today talking about, I really think it was a blessing for me to get this because now I know how to handle it. I fought it and now I know what I'm really dealing with. And so it was necessary for me to get this disease. Bro, you are not even out of the most hectic part of the disease progression. Running upstairs, trying to run upstairs and breathing heavy and talking about how you're cured. Also, as others have made the point, he got airlifted to the best hospital in the country, had a team of world-class physicians, 13 medical professionals around the clock, not a moment unmonitored, and had access to medications that are both experimental. He got immediate compassionate care authorization for either the Nucleon or the whatever, Regeneron, whatever, and the remdesivir. And these, not only are these medications that probably shouldn't be commingled, that was another thing that came out. They were throwing everything at the wall except hydrochloroquine.
Right.
Which he did not receive months and months and months after touting it. Probably, I'm going to presume that they did not inject him with bleach, nor did they irradiate him with sunshine into his veins. But the point is that this is a man who is in his 70s, obese, not in the best of health, who has contracted a disease that is very aggressive against exactly those comorbidities. He is almost, with the absence of being Black, in possibly the worst cohort of people with results in this disease. And he's running around like he's all anxious to get back on the trail and jump into the debates. Biden did come out to say today that he doesn't feel that he should be debating him if he still has the Rona. And that is an interesting position. I guess we'll see over the next several days. Joy, what do you think we're going to be looking at in terms of Trump's health, his ability to continue to push forward in this campaign, and what the repercussions are, especially with two of the senators on the Senate Judiciary Committee who are supposed to be conducting the Amy Coney Barrett confirmation hearings? What do you think the impact of COVID-19 on this final stretch of the electoral process will be for the country?
You asked a really good question there. So I'm going to take it back to the first debate. If you think about it this way, some people have made the same connection that I did on the timeline of this disease. We know just from seeing the 7 million people that have contracted it, that the timeline from first contact to any symptoms is usually between 5 to 7, maybe 9 days. And so for him to come out and say that he was diagnosed on Thursday and be at the hospital on Friday, bro, you got that a week ago. As we now know, possibly from that Rose Garden event. But knowing, and this is all hypothetical because there's nothing that has come out to say when he got it. But hypothetically, if you got COVID and you might go down or you might not be able to do anything beyond the first debate, you come out swinging wild at the first debate. And that may account for his inability to follow any rules because he knew, again, if you're thinking about maybe what their plan may have been, you go in, you strike hard, you crush Joe Biden, and then you say, I'm not doing any more debates because I've proved my point. Maybe that is a way to get out of any future debates by a killing blow in debate one, but he failed to do that. If anything, his overuse of bullying tactics backfired on him, and now everybody's like, dude, you look the mess, and so you need to do another debate, and he won't be physically able to do it if this disease takes a hold of him, regardless of the Walter Reed care. The disease, it's going to get you if it's going to get you. And so he may not be physically able to do everything he did before. He might even pass out on stage. Who knows? Because this disease is unpredictable. So I wonder if maybe that wasn't the original plan. Look, get in, get some hard jabs, win that debate, and then declare you're not going to do any more. And then just go dark. But now he's not going to be able to do that. He's got to debate again,
I don't think that Trump would ever go dark.
Ever.
But Sharon, I want to jump back on the angry woman perspective and how you felt she handled it. I thought Kamala Harris struck a strong balance between being authoritative, but not being what some described Hillary Clinton as being shrill. She never was, to me, insulting to the constituency. She was very constituent focused. She was always posing questions to the American citizens. How is your life? How has this affected you? Whereas we ended up with basket of deplorables from Hillary Clinton. I don't think she had a moment like that tonight. But how do you think, as our resident, let's say, instead of angry, excitable Black woman, how do you feel that Harris struck that balance? And what do you think her finest moment was of explaining her own story tonight? Because she did quite a bit of both resume and building of her own personal narrative. What was a moment for you that stuck out?
Well, sorry, Tom, I have to do a little bit of Mike Pence on you. First, I need to declare that Donald Trump, in my humble opinion, wanted to infect Biden, because by the time the debate happened, he knew he was infected. And he went there, all his kids, who we haven't heard from any of his kids, other than them claiming that they negative. And we all saw Donnie Jr. before the debate. We thought he was high as a kite doing that video. He had the vid, okay? He had Miss Rona. And he has been totally dark, as well as all the kids other than Jared. And Jared was walking on that plane with everybody else who is positive. Okay. When he was talking about, come on, Hicks, what's that girl name?
Hope Hicks.
Hope.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we got the same name. Hope Hicks was walking on the plane. Stephen Miller was walking on the plane, and Jared don't have it? Really? In that little tiny close quarters plane? So that's number one. Number two, I wouldn't put nothing past Donnie. He like, I got it, Joe Biden gonna get it. Because Joe Biden get it, he gonna die. That's how Donnie is wired, because he is so filled with his own ego. So back to Kamala. Sister girl, one thing I have to just take a moment for all us Black people out there to say, she did us justice the way she talked about race, the way she talked about the injustice of Black people. I wish we would have opened with that when I think about it, because the way, it was so much madness going on with him, but she stopped. She looked at that camera and she said, damn it, I'm a Black woman. I'm going to stand up for Black people. I'm going to right the wrong of the previous administration that Biden was on the junior on a ticket, but we have come this far 12 years later, and I'm going to be unapologetic about defending Black people and our plight in society. You could hear a pin drop in that room. You could hear a pin drop, the way she just dissected the realities of Black people, the injustices. She owned law and order reform. We ain't talk about that. We need to give that sister some props. She owned the stage on the need for reform. He tried to double down talking about riots. She was like, fuck you. I'm going to be very clear. I was out there. I was marching peacefully. She didn't over rebuke the riots. She did it. She did what she had to do. She said violence is unacceptable, but she didn't cower to that point. And we as Black intellectuals and Black ratchet people like myself, we need to lift her up about how she owned her Blackness, how she did justice for Black people, how she sung our struggles in the way that she did. She didn't mix it with this people of color bullshit. She was straight about Black people. She called names, she talked issues, and then she went further to say that's why police reform is necessary. Nobody talked about that enough, and we're not watching other people's post debates, but we influencers, all the people watching and staying, all of us need to be carrying that mantle. As much as we want to talk about that fly in the hair, that's as close to Black as he gets. But she did justice, and God bless the poor fly, but that's his only, as I keep seeing, his only Black friend. Oh, and when she said, and let's talk about your justices. Y'all appointed 50 up, and let's be clear, none of them is black. I said,
Right.
Let me take a drink on that one for Sister Kamala.
Yeah, I was not a person who really particularly noticed the fly, but
Me neither.
yeah, but flies are drawn to decaying and desiccated flesh, so maybe it's an indication of the state of the campaign. Well, you said it, Sharon. So I'm going to put up what one of our commenters said, and so maybe that is in fact why the fly was drawn to him. We are coming to the time in the program where we can wrap up and begin to wrap our heads around a couple of things. But I do want to jump onto some points that Sharon alluded to that I don't think did get enough presence. The issue of Breonna Taylor. He offered a platitude. I'm so sorry for the family, and danced away from it. Did not give any credence to what was going on. And then stated the lie, which I'm a little surprised that Kamala Harris did not jump on, that the grand jury saw all of the information. If that were true, then the historic release of the grand jury transcripts is something that would not have happened late last week. This was a perversion of the process of justice. And the commentator said that her boyfriend's bullet actually struck the police officer. That is not certain. They have not conclusively proven that. And in fact, it has been said that the officers did have 9mm weapons on them. And again, as we talked about in another podcast, you don't hear any of the officers screaming in the 911 call in the immediate aftermath of Breonna Taylor's murder. You don't hear an officer complaining about being shot. You don't hear anybody talking about pain. You don't hear any officers calling for 911. You don't hear any of that. And so the guy said he did fire a shot, a warning shot. By the way, Kentucky is a Castle Doctrine state. It was a licensed firearm. If you do not know who is in your house, you are free to protect yourself. And the police did not announce themselves. There were witnesses in the rest of the apartment complex who said they heard nothing until the door was bashed in. The one witness who said that he did hear them announce themselves said that weeks later, changing his initial testimony. So while Daniel Cameron is out here talking about Megan Thee Stallion, talking trash on SNL, he is getting the dragging that he deserves because he lied to that grand jury. It's all out there now. It was a perversion of not justice. And we are going to see how the chips fall on him, because obviously this is not a place that anybody wants to be when they are in the midst of the beginnings of their political careers and hoping to ride the coattails of Mitch's patronage to higher office. Joy, what would you like to say as we close today? I want to give you the opportunity to lead off the closing remarks.
I want to remind everybody in the state where I live right now. I live in Georgia. I live in Atlanta, which we kind of consider ourselves, not Georgia. But I want everyone who is watching this broadcast right now to make sure that you vote early. And the reason I say that is because there are a lot of things going on. We've already seen the pulling up of post office boxes across the country. There's been, there are things going on like in my home state where I was born, of Texas, where there's only one absentee ballot drop-off spot per county. Some counties are 3 hours wide. There's a lot of things going on that are going to lead up to a question of the results on election night, potentially a long drawn out ballot counting process. Vote early and make sure your people vote early in person. Make no mistakes. Check your ballot before you ratify, before you vet it and say, yes, I'm done. Make sure it says what you think it says. Be ready to call if someone tries to change your vote. Be ready for all of it. Don't walk in naively and vote everything, not just president, but anything else on the ballot. Be ready for everything that needs to be voted on. Because remember, if you live in Kentucky, Cameron is not president of the United States. You need to vote for the people who are going to deal with your local issues all the way down the ballot. So that's my thing. This debate tonight was an interesting exercise. I don't know that it changed anybody's mind. I really appreciate Kamala Harris, Senator Harris, representing my demographic so well. But I want to remind everybody to go out and vote early in person.
Sharon, let's go to you. You have been on the front lines of electioneering and also voter protection and voter outreach and engagement. What is the message that you offer to the people who are watching both the debate and our broadcast this evening?
I think, one, as I start to close, if there's anything we haven't talked about that you all want our co-hosts to cover in their closing, please put it in the chat box, because we are reading what you're saying. I think Joyce said it all. I think it is critical that we vote in person. I think it is critical in those states that have early vote that we vote early. Those that are able, sign up to be poll workers. Some of them are paid. Take the day off and go be a poll worker, because we're going to need to match whatever the Republicans are doing at the polls. And ain't nothing like electronic media telling us what's going on and being able to get the posse out there. If we have not just poll watchers outside, I want poll workers, people inside precincts, especially super precincts where there's heavy Black and Latino turnout in the inner cities, not in the hood, not in the luxury sides. Like, I don't need you in Little Havana because they voting for him. I need you in Central Florida, in the Puerto Rican and Dominican districts and the Nicaraguan districts. And to make sure that we do our part, those that can, to vote early and even go and be poll workers if you're able. I think every lawyer in the country needs to take the day off and be available. Even if it's disorganized, just go and sit out in your car, pack a lunch, and watch that precinct that you care the most about if nobody's called you to take a precinct. Because I do think the Proud Boys and his posse is going to be available. I totally believe that all debates should be over at this point, unless they are done by Zoom. I think Joe needs to sit his ass down and keep doing what he's doing with his positive messaging and not give Donald Trump the time of day in person, because COVID is real. And I have no belief at all in him doing everything that's necessary to throw Joe off his game. It kills him to be home and off the grid, and he believes his opponent should be off the grid as well. Again, I feel wholeheartedly that we need to lift up Sister Kamala and her message and representing Black folks the way she is representing us. I think it is critical. I'm going to take a point of personal privilege and say thank you to my baby daddy who told me to stop coming on this show looking like Miss Seeley and said, I know I'm your estranged husband, but you get on there representing our family one more time, going all natural with your following, we're going to have a chat. So yes, my fly glasses, which I like.
Good girl.
And he made me put on some lipstick just for y'all. I think it's for him. I think he still has a crush on me, but deuces. But at the same time, thank you, brother. He's my consult before and after these shows, and you got to show appreciation to people that hold you down, and he holds me down. So thank you, Brother Hicks. I much appreciate you. And to all of our loyal following out there, we love you. Your comments matter. So like I said, if we haven't covered something that you think we should talk about, please put it down in the chat. I'll be the sergeant at arms to hold our illustrious co-host accountable to our following. Hey, sis, my sister Viv is listening too. That's so special to me. And we love y'all, and we got more coming because this ain't over till it's over. So we got a whole month ahead of us, and we're going to bring it home.
All right, Chuck, you're winding down. I can see you are ready to shut off. It's quite late in your side of the universe. What is your final message that you have for us tonight, man?
Yeah, and I'm a can't see kind of guy. Wake up early and go to bed early. So yeah, I'm a little bit past my bedtime, but it's always great when brothers and sisters can dwell together in unity. And so I am grateful for the opportunity to be able to not only engage you three brilliant individuals, but the many people, the many thousands of people who watch us, and we appreciate all the support and love that you all are showing. And like Puffy Combs used to say, I thought I told you that we won't stop. We're going to continue to provide to you the best analysis that we can, breaking analysis when we can, and make sure that we, as Sharon said, bring it on home here on November 3rd. I think it's important to continue to encourage those who are registered to vote, but still maybe somewhat on the fence. And I'm talking about many of our brothers and sisters who like to do the what if, it doesn't really matter, left wing, right wing, same bird, all of the other hotepery type of commentary that you get from time to time. We need to continue to nail home the fact that Donald Trump has appointed over 200 judges that will drastically change how the judiciary works over the next 25 to 30 years. And so if for no other reason than that, we need to make sure that we have a Democrat in the White House, and we need to try to flip as many Senate seats as we can blue. Jamie Harrison has an excellent opportunity up in South Carolina to defeat Lindsey Graham. Raphael Warnock has an opportunity to defeat Kelly Loeffler. So if you have the coins, contribute to those brothers, because every cent helps in terms of the media blitzes that they will need to be able to defeat those two candidates heading into November 3rd. And with that, just make sure you vote. As a group, my concern is this. You go to these debates, we come in with some preconceived ideas. We already know who it is we're supporting. We make no bones about that. And we are able to, I think, give credit where it's due. When Mike Pence has made a good point, and when Donald Trump has made a good point, it's not robbery to say so. They very rarely make them, but if they do, we can go ahead and laud them. We all know that we're riding with Biden and we're riding with Kamala Harris, but I am still very much interested in seeing what that 53% will do. And the 53% were, let's just call it, the white women who chose not to vote for Hillary Clinton back in 2016 for a number of reasons. I will be interested to see if many of the events of just the last 10 days will move the needle on some of those individuals when it comes time to vote. I mean, if you really believe that the Trump administration has handled the coronavirus well, after all of the evidence that it has not, and if you still feel that it is competent to be able to not only handle that pandemic, but also deal with social justice and the injustices across America, then there's not much I can say to you other than God bless you. But again, it will be interesting to see where that falls on the spectrum. Tom, you have been saying for months that you believe that Joe Biden has an opportunity to siphon those votes off in a way that Hillary Clinton never would have. I really hope that you appreciate with regards to that. I look forward to seeing what the results will be. And again, as we've already said, we're going to be here on election night. I've already cast a broad net with many of our guests that have been on our various podcast platforms. So we're going to be shuffling them in and out over the course of 4 or 5 hours on election night, but we're going to have fun with it. And we look forward to those of you who are out watching right now to joining us then and letting your voices be heard as well for Decision 2020.
Well, I'm going to close with a message along the same lines, but highlighting some statistics that I think are particularly important. More than 4 million American voters have already cast their ballot in this election in the first week of October. For those of you who are interested in numbers, that's 50 times the number that had cast ballots by this time in 2016. The election is already on. And to put not too fine a point on it, 78,000 votes across 3 states are what handed Donald Trump the Electoral College. In the primaries, in just 2 states, more than 100,000 mail-in ballots were invalidated for a variety of different reasons. In terms of the very strict regulations, sometimes there's an envelope within an envelope, sometimes you have to sign it with 2 witnesses, all these various and sundry things. It is critically important as the GOP does their very worst to try to minimize, strip, cage, and restrict votes from Democratic voters, that you do everything in your power to make sure that your vote is unassailably cast and accepted. And what that means is early voting. You have nearly a month, just less than a month, to get out there, take advantage of the opportunity. Some states are making it more difficult, but some states are more lenient. Obviously, the states where we are most concerned are typically governed by Republican governors, so perhaps they are putting more draconian restrictions in place. However, in North Carolina, with Tom Tillis's Senate seat very much in the balance, it is critical for all of us who wish to see a change in this country, a return to the rule of law, a return to cabinet appointees who are actually interested in doing their jobs, a return to judges who are vetted in terms of their judicial capacity and capabilities, and not just rammed down our throats by a GOP that is controlled by Mitch McConnell, who is pulling all of their strings. We must go out and vote in person, either on election day or before. And where you have the opportunity to take additional people to vote with you, please exercise that opportunity. So much is in the balance. I'm not going to use the hyperbole of this is the most important election of our lives. But at the end of the day, this is something that we all need to be concerned about. A lot is on the line. There are too many different positions that are going to be up and down this ballot. Your congressperson, you have state senators, you have state representatives, the mayors, police, sheriffs, police commissioners, a whole host of legislative initiatives and ballot initiatives that are on. You can't afford to play with any of it. And with that, I want to say, on behalf of myself, Tom Cunningham, and our esteemed panel, including Chuck Hobbs, Sharon Letman, and Joyce Stevens, thank you for joining us and being a part of the Steel Sharpens Steel family. And you best believe come Friday, we are going to have another roundup where we are talking about the issues of the day, perhaps even the overtaking of the hashtag Proud Boys mark across the interwebs. So we hope that you will join us. Thank you for joining us this evening. And we truly appreciate you being a part of the Steel Sharpens Steel family. Thank you so much.